Welcome to Steady Growth, where we build money, character, and resilience the same way. Small, steady, and on purpose. No hype, just honest steps that add up. Let's begin. Let me guess how your last budget went. You sat down, full of good intentions, and built this beautiful, detailed plan. A category for groceries, a category for gas, one for coffee, one for the kids' activities, 40 little lines all tracked to the dollar. And it worked for about 2 weeks. Then real life happened, a few categories blew up, you stopped logging every receipt, and within a month, the whole thing was abandoned, and you felt like you'd failed. Here's what I want you to hear, and I mean it. You didn't fail the budget failed you. It was too complicated to survive contact with an actual life. Kids, surprises, a tired Tuesday. The truth is, a budget you can't keep up with isn't a good budget, no matter how detailed it is. The best budget is simply the one you'll actually stick to. So today, I want to give you that one. It has just 3 buckets. It's called the 50-30-20 rule, and it can bring calm, gentle order to your money in a single afternoon. Here's the whole thing in one breath. You take your after-tax income, the money that actually lands in your account after taxes come out, and you split it into 3 buckets. 50% goes to needs, 30% goes to wants, 20% goes to savings and paying down debt. That's it. That's the entire system. No 40 categories, no tracking every latte, just 3 buckets, and a rough sense of whether your money is flowing into them in roughly the right proportions. The idea comes from Elizabeth Warren, a Harvard bankruptcy expert long before she was a senator, and her daughter, Amelia Warren Tyagi, in a book called All You're Worth. Drawing on 20 years of studying real families' finances, they found that this simple split is roughly what financially healthy households tend to land on, whether they're doing it on purpose or not. So the rule isn't arbitrary. It's a shortcut to the shape that already works. Let me make it concrete. Say your take-home pay is $4,000 a month. 50-30-20 means roughly $2,000 for needs, $1,200 for wants, and $800 towards savings and debt. That's the whole plan. 3 numbers you could write on the back of a napkin. Compare that to the 40-line spreadsheet, and you can already feel why one of them survives real life and the other doesn't. Now let's walk through each bucket, because the magic and the honesty is all in how you sort. The first and biggest bucket is needs, about half your take-home pay. These are the things you genuinely cannot skip without real consequences. Your housing, rent, or mortgage, utilities, the lights, the heat, the water, groceries, actual food, not restaurant food, transportation to get to work, insurance, the minimum payments on your debts. Here's the simple test for whether something is a need. If you stopped paying it, would something genuinely bad happen? You'd lose the roof, the lights, the car, your health coverage? Then it's a need. And notice what's sneaky here. A lot of things feel like needs that are actually wants in disguise. The phone is a need. The top-tier unlimited plan is partly a want. Food is a need. The daily takeout lunch is a want. Being honest about that line is most of the work, because if your needs are creeping towards 70% of your income, some wants have quietly snuck into the needs bucket, and that's worth seeing clearly with no shame attached. The second bucket is wants, about 30%. And I want to say something a lot of budget advice gets wrong. This bucket is not a moral failing. It is not the bad bucket. Wants are the things that make life enjoyable. Dining out, the streaming subscriptions, the hobby, the travel, the nice coffee, the concert tickets. A budget that pretends you have no wants is exactly the kind that fails in 2 weeks, because it's joyless and impossible to live inside. The 50-30-20 rule builds your fun in on purpose. Nearly a third of your money is explicitly yours to enjoy, guilt-free, because the other buckets are handled. That's the genius of it. You're not depriving yourself, you're giving your wants a defined space so they don't quietly eat your savings. The discipline isn't never spend on wants. The discipline is keep wants in their bucket so that when you do spend on the dinner or the trip, you can actually enjoy it, knowing it fits the plan. And here's a quiet bonus. This is also where most overspending hides, because wants are sneaky. The subscriptions you forgot you had, the small daily conveniences, the it's only $12 purchases, they live here and they add up faster than any single big expense. So if your buckets are out of balance, the wants bucket is almost always the first and easiest place to find breathing room, not by cutting the joy out of your life, but by trimming the spending you weren't even enjoying in the first place. The third bucket, 20%, is the one that quietly builds your entire future: savings and extra debt payoff. This is your emergency fund, your retirement contributions, your investments, and any extra payments on debt beyond the minimums. And here's the single most important move in the whole system. There's an old money principle worth knowing by heart. Pay yourself first. It means you save before you spend, automatically the moment your paycheck lands, instead of waiting to see what's left at the end of the month and hoping it adds up to 20%. Because here's the gentle, hard truth. It never will. There's always somewhere for that money to go. So you take your 20% off the top, the instant the money arrives, and you let the other two buckets share whatever remains. Think of it this way. The rule tells you the size of the savings bucket, but paying yourself first is how you actually fill it. One quick note. If you've got high interest debt, a credit card charging 20-something%, one's own advice is to aim this bucket at that first, because wiping out a 20% interest rate is a guaranteed return you simply can't beat anywhere else. Now, let me be honest with you, because on this channel, calm and accurate beats clever. And this is where a lot of budget advice quietly gets dishonest.
For a great many families, especially in expensive cities or on a single income, 50% for needs is simply not realistic. If rent alone eats 40% of your take-home pay, the math breaks before you've bought a single grocery. So please hear this clearly. The numbers are a starting point, not a sacred law. The real principle underneath them is just this: needs, then a defined space for joy, then a non-negotiable slice for your future. And the exact percentages are yours to adjust to the life you actually live. If you're stretched right now, a 60-20-20 might be your reality for this season. Needs higher, wants compressed, but savings held firm if you possibly can. The one bucket worth protecting hardest is that last 20, because the whole point of having a plan is that your future doesn't just get whatever happens to be left over, which is usually nothing. So start exactly where you are. Adjust honestly. There is no version of this you're failing at. The framework bends, just don't let it break the savings bucket. So how do you actually put this into practice without it becoming another abandoned spreadsheet? 3 steps, 1 afternoon. Step 1. Find your real take-home number, what actually hits your account each month after taxes. Multiply it by 0.5, 0.3, and 0.2, and now you've got your 3 target numbers. Step 2, look at last month's spending, your bank and card statements, and roughly sort everything into the 3 buckets. Don't agonize. Rough is absolutely fine. This is just to see where you actually are right now, which is almost always eye-opening, and I promise, not in a scary way. Most people discover their wants bucket is bigger than they thought, or that needs has quietly ballooned. Step 3, and this is the real key to not failing, don't try to fix everything at once. Pick one bucket that's out of line and make one change this month, just one. A budget isn't a cage you build once. It's a direction you steer toward, one small adjustment at a time. Steady beats perfect every single time. So here's the whole thing to carry with you. You don't need a complicated budget. You need one simple enough that you'll still be using it next year. 3 buckets, about half for the needs you can't skip, about a third for the wants that make life worth living, and a fifth held firm for the future you're quietly building. And notice why this works when detailed budgets don't. It asks you to make a few big decisions once instead of 100 tiny decisions every day about whether this purchase is allowed. That's far less exhausting and far easier to keep. Adjust the numbers to your real life, protect that savings bucket, and fill it automatically so it never depends on what's left over. This isn't deprivation, and it's not a spreadsheet you'll abandon in 3 weeks. It's just calm on purpose. Your money flowing where you decided it should, instead of disappearing and leaving you wondering where it went. You can absolutely do this. 3 buckets. That's a budget you can actually keep.
If something here was useful today, the best thing you can do is use it tonight in one small way. And if you'd like to keep growing with us, you're welcome in our tribe at familycreative.org. It's where we gather the tools and resources we build for people doing this on purpose, and where you can learn more, share what's working, and help someone a few steps behind you. That's the whole point. Small, steady, together. Be kind, try hard, do the work, build the family. We'll see you in the next one.